Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon to colleague parliamentarians. I wish, Mr. Speaker, before I continue, to speak on this resolution which seeks to get the authority from Parliament for the Minister of Finance to borrow $5,217,000 from the special funds resources of the bank to finance safety nets for vulnerable persons affected by COVID-19. Before I make my brief contribution, Mr. Speaker, I want to join other colleagues and to express condolences to the family of the young nurse who met her demise in a very tragic way earlier today. I wish to express my profound sadness not only to the family but to the other nurses and especially to the staff of the Millennium Heights Medical Complex and all other health institutions. I'm being told, Mr. Speaker, that she was well loved and her family is in deep grief. I also wish, Mr. Speaker, to take this opportunity to wish all musicians happy Feast of Musicians. In the constituency of Vieux North, where I come from, we have a rich tradition of musicians and families of musicians. And there are so many of them, Mr. Speaker. I wish all of them well. And I'm hoping that today they will relax and spend some good time with their families and with members of the community. Mr. Speaker, the impacts of COVID-19 on St. Lucia and the Caribbean are well known in some quarters, and in other quarters, Mr. Speaker, we are still counting or trying to assess the impacts of COVID-19. I want to spend just a few minutes to speak to this resolution, Mr. Speaker, but I wish to borrow from the work of Lilia Burankiewicz, who is the World Bank's country director for Caribbean countries. And she has this discussion which she offered in August of this year on the COVID-19, its impacts, and how, Mr. Speaker, we should be thinking of strengthening social protection systems and rethinking social protection systems, especially in light of the impacts of COVID-19. She offers a few suggestions, and I want to use her arguments, Mr. Speaker, as a basis for my discussion today. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has undermined food security on a global scale. I think it's important to remind members and the general public that the impacts of COVID-19, the negative impacts of COVID-19, some of them are health-related. Unfortunately, death all over the Caribbean and the world, but the impacts have been exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. And just to mention, Mr. Speaker, this year, the World Food Programme estimates that 40% or 2.8 million people in the English-speaking Caribbean will struggle to access adequate food and remain food secure. It's important to note, Mr. Speaker, that in addition to COVID-19, 30% of global wheat imports and almost 20% of corn exports, more than 50% of the sunflower oil supply globally are in problems. Exports have stalled. Food prices are on the rise. I think it's very important for our people to understand, for our constituents to understand that all of these things will cause the impacts of COVID-19 to be even more severe. We are seeing reports of food prices going up, and we have also seen, Mr. Speaker, the highest levels in terms of fuel prices since 2008. Why are all these things important in this discussion? These things are important because People in our communities, in our constituencies are under pressure. They are under pressure because COVID-19 wreaked havoc on our social infrastructure. COVID-19 destroyed many families. Some of the breadwinners of the families are deceased, unfortunately, and some people continue to suffer. So there is an urgent need, according to Lilia Burenuik, for us to look at social protection systems and to buffer our economies to protect the vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, the crisis is compounded by the fiscal strain on the governments. You heard a while ago the leader of the opposition chastising this government and indicating that we promised to give people things that we are not giving to them. I was pleasantly surprised, not surprised, but I was very happy when the member for Castries Central went into the history of the management of this economy by the member for Miku South. And I was happy when he mentioned the record which the member for Miku South got in 2016. The healthy economy and an economy on the rebound. The reduction of the fiscal deficit to 3.1%, I believe, moving from almost 9% when the member for Beaufort South came into government. And how he squandered, that is the member for Miku South, how he squandered this wonderful opportunity by going on a frolic of his own, a frolic in his own mind, Mr. Speaker, to enter into all kinds of deals. And his answer to economic growth is revenues. Revenues. That as long as you have revenues, you'll have economic growth. Today is not the day for a discussion on economics, Mr. Speaker. But clearly his strategy did not work, and we are in a lot of problems exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis. The World Bank suggests a few things, and I listened to my colleague, the member for Castries Southeast, this morning, and I was very comforted by the fact that a number of suggestions by the World Bank, Mr. Speaker, I heard him speak about how the professionals in his ministry are working towards these suggestions. The first is for us to update our poverty data and targeting mechanisms. I know, for example, Mr. Speaker, that we are encouraging our professionals to focus on the data, get the data right. I know we are encouraging community groups to get involved. The World Bank also indicates that we should implement economic inclusion programs. And when you look at the work of this government, the Department of Commerce, when you look at what is happening with our programs, and in a while the loan for small businesses is coming, you will understand, Mr. Speaker, that this government is focused on implementing economic inclusion programs. The World Bank suggests also that we modernize the social protection system and increase institutional capacity. I heard the minister speak about PAP, and he's very fond of discussing PAP, the Public Assistance Program. We need to modernize that. We know, Mr. Speaker, that in the last term, the last government, we know the kinds of havoc that was wreaked on the Public Assistance Program. And we are still trying to understand how certain people found themselves there and how we can use a modern tool and a fair tool to get help to those people who really need help. There are a number of people in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, who should be in this program. And as to why they're not in this program, I don't know. So I'm very pleased that the minister and his ministry are trying to rectify this problem, are trying to improve the public assistance program. And the World Bank also suggests that we strengthen social insurance and labor market programs. And work is ongoing with the help of the World Bank in St. Lucia and the OECS to do this. So we need to strengthen the grassroots level involvement in these public assistance strategies and to reimagine social protection. But Mr. Speaker, our government has demonstrated that we are a progressive government, a government which has implemented in its short stint so far a number of policies to assist people in social protection. As we know, social protection policy, progressive social protection policy is really an investment. The people have evidence of our actions, Mr. Speaker. Look at in the post-COVID era, although we still have COVID-19, we can begin to think about a developing post-COVID era. We have serious issues to consider still. Our government is considering those issues, and you, the people, are in the mind of our government. Look, for example, we know, Mr. Speaker, that although COVID-19 infections are going down, we know a number of people who get COVID-19, they are recovering, but now we are discovering that many people who are infected with COVID-19 seem to have complications which may affect their future productive lives. And that's a very serious problem. We in the Department of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, we are looking at this problem, and we are beginning to speak. We are speaking with CARFA, PAHO and the other agencies to find out how serious this is. While people are recovering from COVID-19, people are reporting all kinds of pains and aches and things that they never had before, and they are now going to certain doctors more regularly. They are seeing specialists for ailments that they never had before. So this is something we have to consider when we look at social protection. It means, Mr. Speaker, that some people, even though they got COVID and they have recovered, it looks as if we may have another crisis down the road, and it's a looming crisis of long COVID and people who do not understand yet what's happening to them after they have contracted COVID and recovered. So social protection, we need to go down that road too and begin to look at how will that affect the workplace and how will it affect our productive capacity here. It requires for us to be guided by the evidence. The changing nature of work, for example. Since COVID-19, a lot of workplaces have changed the operations. And how does that impact social protection? The labor market programs, Mr. Speaker, look at what this government has done. Access to tourism through community tourism activities, the youth economy and the opportunities that can be found there. Very soon, access to funding by the youth will come through the youth economy. Look at education. Look at what this government has done. And if we are talking about social protection, we're talking about parents who got impacted by COVID-19. And the government came in and said, we know you're impacted by COVID-19. Little by little, let me take off some pressure off you. So we went and we paid the facilities fees. We paid the CXC fees. We negotiated with Flow, and there is the Flow bundle. And a number of individuals are being connected right now as we speak. So when we speak of social protection, when we speak of a government with a conscience, with a focus on protecting individuals in the communities, our government is there for you, the people. Our government is focused on that. Mr. Speaker, access to information technology, where a parent would have to probably get close to 1,000 EC dollars to purchase a laptop. Our government is ensuring that the parents, you the parents, get some protection and to ease off the burden from you a bit. And when we speak of micro businesses, in a while we will hear the debate on the loans for micro businesses. More opportunities for social protection, because the World Bank and all of the experts are saying, yes, we have to give transfers and we have to help people out, but the best form of social protection in the long run is to ensure that you graduate these people and you give them skills so that at the end of the day they can survive on their own and they can create even better opportunities for other people through employment. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this loan. Moi, Mr. Speaker, qui nous venons ici pour prêter l'argent, mais nous pas ni mardi prêter, Mr. Speaker. Là nous venons et nous avons parlé, c'est l'argent nous avons prêté, c'est pour aider moun pays. Quand nous te dit en élection, moun c'est eux qui plus important. Avec même parlement Castries Southeast, il dit que l'année en hurricane, quand il a sa croisée chimère, même si nous servons plus gros contracteurs, gros satier chimère mais moun depuis yo pas blessé moun kay rete là avec ces moun nous ni pour concerner les plis avec l'argent ça qui ça qu'il fait l'argent ça kay aider moun qui ont difficulté par COVID-19 avec les affaires COVID-19 là il est difficile mais aussi là ni l'autre bagaille monsieur speaker qui a fait les affaires COVID-19 là plus trois cassements prix gaz à toute la terre depuis 2008 prix gaz c'est qui est plus haut à présent depuis sorti depuis 2008 aussi monsieur speaker Russia avec Ukraine yo qui a produit exporté plus mi en chaque monde peut-être pas ça en chaque manger nous ka manger nous ka servi mi pour faire se manger à l'autre pays avec là c'est mon pas ni c'est mi qui sort soya bin bagay comme ça là yo pas ni prix a monter so là dans le supermarket là ouais prix ces bagay prix manger ka monter en chaque ces bagay là à manger a ka sorti Russia ces bagages ça a sorti Ukraine qui a produit chaque mi et mi qui a allé l'autre pays l'Amérique avec différentes places comme ça et qui a fait crème qui a fait timi qui a fait toute qualité bagages avec ces gwen ça là avec là ni la jet et bâtiment passe à aller puis ces bagages là qui a monté haut en pays Saint-Lucie c'est pour ça premier ministre a dit nous manger plus figue manger plus mango manger plus bagages ministre agricole a dit nous manger bagages Saint-Lucie avec yo ka oui yo mais ça qu'a fait les affaires COVID-19 là plus difficile parce que moun qui teni Covid a des moun perd travail a des moun pas ni même qualité travail là encore avec a des moun malade toujours comme ministre santé me dit ça qui en chaque moun joine Covid et que vinn primaire ça bon monsieur speaker mais ça nous ka ouais à présent ministre santé c'est docteur qui a dit moi là ni chaque moun qui teni Covid yo vinn primaire mais à présent che yo ka vinn faire mal fouissi mol yo ka yo ni baye fouissi mol yo à présent yo ni blood clot qui yo pas tenu avant en chaque monde ne 10 fois bagay ka fait yo mal qui yo pas jamais ni avant bon ça c'est un gros problème nous ka ni en anglais c'est docteur qui a créé long covid ça veut dire oui ou tenu covid ou vinn primaire mais à présent ou ka ni bagay qui drôle moun ka en chaque monde ka oublier là ni bagay yo ka oublier plus passé avant. Comme ça, c'est docteur qui a parlé avec l'autre professionnel, l'autre pays pour garder qui ça mine. Et n'a dit tout ça qui a affecté nos affaires social protection, nous a dit. Nous n'y pour commencer à garder ces bagages là. Est-ce là ni monde qui ni pour sortir travail plus vite parce que yo tenu Covid même si on vient primaire mais à présent pied yo ka fait yo mal, hanche yo ka fait yo mal. Tout bail comme ça quand le gouvernement nous a gardé ça pour qui manière nous a garder ces bagages ça là en tant qu'il va venir comme ça monsieur speaker nous venons prêter l'argent nous leader opposition il a dit en chaque lot différents bagages qui pas vrai comme la coutume mais nous pas qu'à mettre tête nous ça nous a bail Jean cette ici évidence là qui nous concerne about moun regardez ça nous a fait. Les bagailles nous venons la tenir Covid, nous payons si by ces moun. Ça c'est l'argent, c'est moun ça qui tient en poche toujours. À part de ça, nous payons facility fees. Ça c'est l'autre l'argent moun ça tient en poche. Et nous ni flow band la présent. Moun qui pas tenir internet, yo veut servir ti computer yo ka joindre connecté par flow. Et là ni tellement autre bagaille moi ça dit, nous a fait pour aider moun. Car ça Mikai nous a mangé un chai kai. Avec moi-même, really wish nous tenir plus d'argent pour faire ça. Et l'année chai bagay nous a fait. Avec nous ni moun, c'est moun nous ni en l'idée nous. Comme ça, m'explique explique, moi quand supporter ça, et gouvernement ça, là on regarder un gouvernement qui social. Moi quand même pas la bonne santé. Et ça nous a fait pour ni moun faire moun ni plus opportunité à ces health center pour être plus spécialiste. Nous avons commencé à nous créer Center of Excellence avec tous ces Go Health Center à cette ici, Kaivini Center of Excellence, qu'on vient fort. Nous avons commencé avec Mikou, qu'on vient fort, à Slawé, c'est Go Health Center ça là. Nous avons mis plus facilité à dire comme ça plus de monde qui joue plus service. Avec c'est ça le gouvernement ça a fait pour aider les affaires sociales là. Comme ça moi supporter prêter l'argent ça là. Et c'est pas un mardi prêter, c'est un mardi, c'est un jour nous avons prêté pour bonne raison. Et pour aider moun, pas pour aider chouval, pas pour aider chouval qui vient avant l'hôpital, pas pour aider DSH, pour faire gros chimé 13 millions de dollars et l'hôpital n'a pas fait pièce, pas pour faire pièce ces bagailles ça là. C'est pour aider moun et c'est ça le gouvernement ça. Merci à chacun, c'est ça.